And I asked her what, and she said that she had shot and killed a man that day.
What the hell is going on, Lee? They've called, they've been up to my parents again. They've got my sister now asking her questions. So what the hell's going on?
They're trying to make it look like I was crazy at all times. Huh?
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
you killed 7 men.
Yes,
and
you
I'm
did.
asking you what got you to kill the 7 men.
And I'm telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it?
Not everybody is killing 7 people.
Hi guys, it's Joey and welcome back to my channel. I talk about all things spooky, true crime, and sometimes I paranormal investigate. If you knew what happened before this video was being filmed, like I was doing the eyelash curler and I about took my entire eyelid off. The things I do. And my eyelashes aren't even that curled because I was scared after doing it, so... Today, I wanted to talk about something that has intrigued me for a long time now, since I was probably a teenager. We are going to talk about Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Carol Pittman was born in Rochester, Michigan on February 29th, 1956. She was the daughter of Diane and Leo Wuornos, and also had a brother named Keith Wuornos, who was born on March 14th, 1955. A little under 2 years of marriage, Diane decided she wanted a divorce from Leo, Eileen's father. It was approximately 2 months before Aileen was born, and she filed for divorce, as she should have. Diane gave birth to Aileen at the age of 16, so let's just say it was a very young marriage, and back then it was quite common, but who would think that's a great idea anymore? Aileen never ended up meeting her dad. He was incarcerated at the time. He ended up in prison. He did it on January 30th, 1969. There's a lot of layers to that, and it's just altogether a horrific situation. In January of 1960, Diane ended up abandoning her children, leaving Aileen with their grandparents. And you would think, well, maybe it's a better situation. No, it's not a better situation. It's actually an awful situation, and it just keeps getting worse. Like, I'm telling you that if you think the story is gonna be good, it just gets worse and worse. Laurie and Britta, who were their grandparents, were alcoholics, so being around them as children was a very difficult thing, I'm sure. Not to mention, Eileen's grandfather would beat and R-word her, which led Aileen to doing things like prostituting, doing drugs, anything you can imagine to get her by in life. You know, when you live with alcoholics, you know that most of the time they will spend everything on alcohol before they take care of you. And it's a really hard thing. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a child and going through that, and the family that are supposed to take care of you are doing the worst things possible to you. It also was talked about that there were incestual acts with her older brother. They were both probably subjected to sexual abuse, and it's terrible. By 1970, at the age of 14, Aileen got pregnant. The rumor was that it was her granddad's best friend, who was named Chief, and he was pretty much the local pedophile, is what they said. She ended up adopting out her child. All we know about her child is that it was a boy and a closed adoption, and who knows, he would be in his 50s around now, I believe. I think he would be almost 50. She ended up giving birth to this boy on March 23rd, 1971. So somewhere out there, Aileen Wuornos' child has either no idea who he is, unless he does a DNA test, which I honestly, like, if I did a DNA test and I found out Aileen was my mother, I would be like, wow. You know, the story is rough, so I'm sure wherever he is, hopefully he is in a good place, and if he knows about this situation, hopefully he is understanding of what happened in this tragedy. When things happen like this, your life kind of gets chaotic, and you know, there's a lot of emotions. When you're a teenager especially, you probably have this maternal bond with the child and weren't ready to give up for adoption. Sometimes it's even hard, even if you were R-worded, you know, like there are so many layers to these situations that I'm sure a lot of women can relate. So I'm sure it was like emotional, hormonal, postpartum depression at a young age, and on top of that, so much trauma going on. And around the same time that happened, her grandmother ended up dying from liver failure. So of course after that, the grandfather was sick of Aileen, and he was like, you're not a good girl, you aren't very Christian, I want you out of the house, you know, blaming her for her situation. You gotta give this woman a break. Like, she went through too much, and I really have a lot of empathy for her. So her grandfather ended up kicking her out. She was living in the woods, which was like a couple of miles from her home, and you know, even she would live in these cars with like cinder blocks underneath them and just have this tiny blanket in Michigan. And you know how the weather is so cold in Michigan. It's actually freezing in the wintertime. So I could not imagine how cold that must have been, how she survived those nights. Occasionally she would hook by the gas station and, you know, just to get by and, you know, get her essentials. To think she was 15 years old at this time. 15, and this poor girl did not have a chance in the world. Aileen decided to hitchhike around the US and to prostitute to get by, and, you know, found herself surfing on couches when she took a stop in Colorado. On May 27th, 1974, she ended up getting a DUI and disorderly conduct, firing a pistol out her window. I mean, I don't know what she was doing, but I think you know what she's about to do in this story if you've ever seen the movie Monster. She was 18 at the time, and this was, I believe, her first arrest. And, you know, not the last. Later on, she ended up hitchhiking to Florida, Daytona Beach, where it was warm, and, you know, that's where, if you're gonna be homeless, you're gonna go to the warmest state, obviously. Around the age of 20 in 1976, she randomly met this 69-year-old yacht club president. His name was Louis Gratz-Fell, and he was this wealthy man, obviously. It was this surprise marriage that came out of nowhere. The family, or what, family by blood, I don't know if they were like real family, you know, because it seems like no one took care of this girl. They were all shocked to hear about this marriage. However, Aileen still started getting into trouble. She was being aggressive in bars, and basically she hit Louis Gratz-Fell in the head with his own cane. I think it was safe to say that Aileen needed therapy at this point. She probably didn't know how to help herself. Like I said, this was not gonna be the last incident. No, not the last or the worst. He quickly ended up getting a restraining order after, and yeah, the marriage was annulled. And if you think tragedy wasn't gonna continue. Her older brother Keith ended up dying in July of 1976 from an esophageal cancer. He was only 22 years old, I believe, at the time. However, she did end up inheriting about $10,000 from his life insurance. She ended up paying a lot of her arrests off because she had, a fine for drunk driving. She bought a new car and she ended up wrecking it shortly after as well. She just was in a very chaotic place in her mind. In 1978, she tried to commit with a gun and she shot herself in the stomach. She said that throughout her life she had always tried to commit suicide, and she tried it at least 6 times between the age of 14 to 22. So as you can imagine, Aileen had several arrests at this time period for reckless things. Most of it was for robbing because she needed money, and I think she was tired of prostituting. This woman was in survival mode from birth. What else do you expect? She had to fight for everything in her life. For years, she just kept getting into trouble, as I stated, and it wasn't until 1986 that she met Tyra Moore. Aileen was 30 at the time and Tyra was 24, which I have a few things to say about Tyra Moore, but they're not good. Basically, they met at a Daytona Beach gay bar called Zodiac, and yeah, they ended up hitting it off, I think it's safe to say that Aileen fell in love with Tyra Moore. They ended up moving in together, and Tyra knew that Aileen was prostituting, and she continued to do that in order to support them and when it comes to bills and food and so on.
And what about before all this happened? Did you...
You mean before the crimes themselves?
Yeah.
I was doing fine until Tyra told me start going to see strangers and make more money. That's how I wound up in this situation.
But you'd been working as a prostitute for a while before then, hadn't you?
I was doing real good monetarily, yeah. I was making hand over fist of money. I was doing real good. The only problem that happened is when Saudi Arabia came in, my clients started going to Desert Storm and going to the bases and training and getting ready to go overseas and do that deal in Kuwait. And so I lost a lot of my regulars, and Tyra told me, well, why don't you go out there and do your strangers again like you did from the beginning when I started hooking. And I thought, I can deal with my regulars I have now, but I only make about 100, 150 a week.
Did you feel that Tyra was into it for
But Tyra
money
wanted me
as
to
well?
bring in 700 or 1,000 a week. What?
Did you feel Tyra was into it for money as well?
Well, now I look at it, yes, definitely. She was using me monetarily. So was my first lover before Tyra.
At this time, throughout the years, they started to get questioned by police a lot because, as you know, Aileen would start assaulting people. She assaulted a bus driver, and she claimed that the bus driver pushed her off, so that's why she did it. It was the unfortunate time of 1989 that Aileen started her killing spree. Her first victim was on November 30th, and it was Richard Charles Mallory. She claimed that he had R-worded her.
With what? It has nothing to do with the number killed. It's the principle. But they're saying, if there's a number, no. Self-defense is self-defense no matter how many times it is. I don't care if it's 100 times.
I never provoked those guys. I never provoked them. I never showed any provocations whatsoever. It was very nice, very decent, very clean, very ladylike. I didn't even swear in front of my clients. And a lot of my clients, I talked about Jesus and I talked political. Both mixed together, and we never argued. So there was no provocation whatsoever. There was no need for them to look for the closest weapon in the vehicle and try to use it on me to rape me. Two did, 5 tries.
She said it was completely self-defense. Whenever she talked about this murder, she said he tried to R-word me, I couldn't take it anymore, and she described in good detail of what happened. The rest of the victims were David Andrew Spears, Charles Edmund Carskadden, Peter Abram Symes, Troy Eugene Burgess, Charles Richard Humphreys, Walter Gino Antonio. Obviously, police started to notice a pattern that there were several men dying within a year's time. She was very sloppy, she said, and yes, she was with her girlfriend at this time while she was murdering these men.
Let them know that I know that the cops knew who I was. After Richard Mallory died, I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up and let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer. I know they did, because I was no professional serial killer or anything, murderer, or whatever you want to call it, you know. I wasn't professional at what I was doing.
On January 9th, 1991, Aileen was arrested at the Last Resort biker bar. Police ended up finding Tyra Moore later, and they wanted some confessions. You know, it was time to arrest, take them in, and see what was going on, why all these men ended up being murdered. To clear Tyra's name, she needed Aileen to confess to murdering all the men and saying that she didn't have anything to do with it. So police had her in a room in a motel and had her talking to Aileen on the phone through jail.
I met her in a bar.
The police had found Tyra in Ohio, where she agreed to set up her lover to confess.
We were sitting on the floor watching TV, and she just come out and said, I have something to tell you. And I asked her what, and she said that she had shot and killed a man that day.
She loved you, didn't she?
Yes?
She said she'd do anything for you, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
These conversations were monitored and made under police supervision.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes. Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, I had to call you early because I didn't know if you were going to leave today or what.
I don't... What the hell's going on, Lee? They've called. They've been up to my parents again. They've got my sister now asking her questions. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Huh. What are they asking your sister questions for?
I don't know. Lee, they're coming after me. I know they are.
No, they're not. No, listen.
They've got to. Why are they asking so many questions then?
Honey, listen. Do what you gotta do, okay?
I'm gonna have to because I'm like gonna go to jail for something that you did. This isn't fair. My family is a nervous wreck up there. My mom has been calling me all the time. She doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Okay. Do what you gotta do, okay? All right.
What?
I'm not gonna let you go to jail.
You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're gonna let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do.
I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying. Listen.
I can't help it. I'm scared shitless.
I know. I love you a lot.
I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should...
No, Ty, listen.
What if they don't believe me?
Tyra, listen.
What?
I'm not going to let you go to jail or anything. Listen, if I have to confess, I will.
Okay. Yes. Why now did you do this? Why did you do this?
I don't know. Listen, Ty.
What?
I'll probably never be able to see you. You know that?
Yes.
I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will.
Okay.
Don't worry, okay?
Okay.
I love you.
No. I'll do it now. Get it over with.
Right this very moment?
Yes. Get it over with.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
You can call me back later.
All right.
All right. Okay, bye.
Allegedly, and for entertainment purposes, I believe she did know she was murdering these men. Aileen did confess to all the murders and cleared Tyra's name out of love because, believe it or not, Aileen said she loved her more than anyone, and I really think she would have cleared her name when she was guilty. Is it believable that she was defending herself? Yes, I do think that's believable. If you look at the statistics, it's very believable. Only she would know. On January 14th, 1992, she went to trial for the murder of Richard Charles Mallory. She ended up being convicted of his murder because of Tyra's testimony, of course. Sold out the person. That was my candle, y'all. Sold out the person. That was like a... Man, if that was not a sign from Aileen, then what is? Tyra sold her out, you know, was like, I don't care about you because I don't want to be convicted, basically, is what I believe. The defense was saying that Aileen is mentally unstable and she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. They sent Aileen to death row. They sent her to death row. And let's hear what Aileen had to say for herself.
You know, I was just wondering how you're going to be, you know, at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm all right. I'm all right with it.
How have you prepared yourself for tomorrow morning?
I'm all right with it. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Hey, I was tortured at BCI. They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.
Sonic pressure?
And every time I was trying to write something, I think they had some kind of eye in the cell, I'm not sure, but every time I started writing something, it went up higher. So I'm thinking that probably had the TV rigged. The TV or the mirror, something was rigged. They got a huge satellite on the compound. After they put the huge satellite on the compound, it could have been either rigged to the TV set or the mirror or something, because the electrician, when he put the mirror on the wall, he said, doesn't that look like a computer? Then when I had 3 meetings with Miss Villacorta on it, every meeting I had, she increased the pressure of the volume of the comm, increased the harassment on the floor, increased the trays being inedible, just increased every bit of my complaints and trashed all grievances. They're trying to make it look like I was crazy at all times, rig up the room with torture. If I said anything about I think their whole plan was to try to make it look like I was totally crazy, and so nobody would believe anything I had to say about anything, and then drive me there if they could. I suffered so bad. I was really struggling to survive. Had a lot of trays that were attempted murder and everything. I had to wash all my food off. Then one day I didn't wash my food off, and I was sick for 3 weeks, almost died.
But you're okay now.
I'm okay. I'm okay. God is going to be there. Jesus Christ is going to be there. All the angels and everything. And, you know, whatever's on the beyond. I think it's going to be more like Star Trek, beaming me up into a space vehicle, man. Then I move on, recolonize to another planet or whatever. But it's whatever's the beyond. I know it's going to be good because I didn't do anything as wrong as they said. I did the right thing. And I saved a lot of people's butts from getting hurt and raped and killed too.
So are you saying that you killed in self-defense or in cold blood? What do you, because you've changed your story. I'm just trying to
What are you talking about? Change story on what?
No, about whether it was self-defense or not.
I'm not going to say it, you know, I'm not going to get in depth about my cases, Nick. I'm on my way to the chamber, nothing stopping it. You can believe it or you don't have to believe it. That's up to you, man.
What more do you want to say about the cops?
A lot of stuff. Did you know that they were surveilling me before I killed? And then I knew it? And that it was covered up? Did you know there was helicopters dropping down from the sky, deputy sheriff, with decoys picking me up 4 or 5 months before my arrest? It was covered up?
But nonetheless...
Nobody ever asked me these questions.
Whether the cops were following you or not, Aileen.
Oh, whether the cops were following me or not, Aileen,
okay,
what?
let's say the cops were following you.
Yeah.
Let's say they were following you and
Uh-huh.
they did everything that you're saying they did.
Uh-huh.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
you killed 7 men.
Yeah, sure
And I'm
did.
asking you, what got you to kill the 7
And
men?
I'm telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't
Yeah,
you
but
get it?
Not everybody is killing 7 people. So there must have been something in you that was getting you to
Oh,
do
you
that.
are lost, Nick.
So
I was a
explain-
hitchhiking hooker.
Right.
Running into trouble, I shoot the guy if I ran into trouble. Physical trouble. The cops knew it. When the physical trouble came along, let her clean the streets, and then we'll pull her in.
But how
That's
come
why.
there was so much physical trouble in because it was all in 1 year? 7 people in 1
Oh
year.
well. Oh well.
But why not say now?
Because I'm out of retaliation for taking my life like this and getting rich off it all these years in total pathological lying. Yeah, thanks a lot. I lost my fucking life because of it. Couldn't even get a fair trial. Couldn't even get a fair investigation or nothing. Couldn't even have my appeals right. You sabotaged my ass, society, and the cops, and the system. A raped woman got executed. It was used for books and movies and shit. Ladder climbs, re-election, everything else. I got a big finger in all your faces. Thanks a lot. You're an inhumane bunch of fucking living bastards and bitches, and you're gonna get your asses nuked in the end. And pretty soon it's coming. 2019, a rock's supposed to hit you anyhow. You're all gonna get nuked. You don't take fucking human life like this and just sabotage and rip it apart like Jesus on the cross and say thanks a lot for all the fucking money I made off of you. And not care about a human being and the truth being told. Now I know what Jesus was going through. They've been trying to tell the truth, and I keep getting it stepped on. Concerned about if I was raped, I'm not giving you book and movie info. I'm giving you info for investigations and stuff, and that's it. We're gonna have to cut this interview, Nick. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm leaving. I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass. Okay, let's go.
Eileen's execution took place on October 9th, 2002. Jeb Bush signed the death warrant, and she stated that she only wanted coffee as her last meal, which isn't a meal, but it was the only thing she wanted before she died, which is understandable if you know you're going to die. I feel like you have to be a psychopath. And I know a lot of people may think Aileen was a psychopath. I don't think she was a psychopath. I think to be hungry at a time, you had to be a psychopath at death. I pay attention to those who like aren't affected by anything and they order these large meals, and I pay attention to those serial killers. Eileen's last words before death were, "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the rock and I'll be back, like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th like the big movie, big mothership and all, I'll be back, I'll be back." She ended up dying at 9:47 a.m. that morning. Prior to Eileen's execution, what stayed with me was that she couldn't think of a particular time she was happy in her life. I think that stuck with me the most about her life, and obviously the trauma. I have a lot of empathy. Obviously, I don't believe in murder, you know, and I think it's possible that a lot of those things could be self-defense. Aileen also had a history of mental illness. Her father had schizophrenia. We don't know all the layers to Aileen, and I think she was very much a victim. And I think we should have empathy for people like that. She had no chance in her life. My heart really hurts for her childhood. Like, could anyone imagine growing up under that circumstance? I'm sure people can relate. And I think this is an interesting story to spread awareness that, you know, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to getting help, that you need before it's too late, because you could end up, you know, on a murder spree, it seems like. And I'm not trying to put it lightly at all. I think if those men were in fact innocent, I obviously think it's a horrific thing to happen to anyone. Your family members that have to go through this, you know, if there's any kind of meaningless loss. However, if it was self-defense, then it was rightfully so. What are you gonna do if it's like, let somebody hurt you if you're in a situation like that? Let me know what you think based on watching this and seeing interview clips by the wonderful Nick Broomfield. He is an epic creator, so I highly recommend his documentaries and to also watch the documentaries.